Patrick was working on his computer one evening late when he suddenly decided to check out his business review online. Suddenly, his face changed. One after another, there was 1- and 2-star reviews that dominated the list. Patrick couldn't believe it. Patrick's love for bread, cakes, and pastries started when he was a child. Back then, his mom would often bring him to their neighborhood coffee shop. At the coffee shop, there were fresh croissants, baguettes, pretzels, and so much more. Not to mention a variety of cakes and pastries that were available too. It was Patrick's happy place, and he cherished the moments when he and his mom would spend time together. At home, when his mom would cook stuff, Patrick would ask if he could help in any way. He was curious to learn the process of cooking and was happy to do anything in return. One of the first books that he was reading was a cookbook. Already back then, he had a dream of opening his own bakery. But as many things in life, Patrick's dream was soon forgotten. After finishing studies, Patrick moved to another city to look for new opportunities. He studied accounting, and at that time, his goal was to land a well-paying job and move up the corporate ladder. This is what all of Patrick's fellow students were planning to do as well. But searching for these high-paying positions was not as easy as he imagined, because everywhere he looked, they asked for a minimum of 5 years of experience. And even when he applied for beginner positions, he didn't get many replies. There was competition everywhere. After weeks of trying, Patrick did land a position. It was supposed to be the job of his life. Well, it wasn't. He was working long hours just to get the required work done, and nobody paid him extra for staying late. That was the rule. You have to finish the work during the working hours, or you stay late. If people didn't like it, then they could leave. Just a few months later, Patrick knew that this was not the job that he would want to do for the rest of his life. In fact, he hated it, but he had nowhere to go because he remembered how hard it was to even find this position. He was stuck. Usually, Patrick would cook his own meals and then take them to work, but today he had forgotten his meal at home. So he went to the local coffee shop. As he was sitting there in front of the carrot cake, he remembered his dream from childhood. I wanted to open my own bakery, he thought to himself. He didn't even want to go back to work, but he needed money to start a bakery. It took some time, but eventually, after saving enough money, Patrick was able to open the bakery that he had once dreamed of. Being overcome by excitement, he wanted his new business to gain instant success. He went straight into it by coming up with an elaborate menu, offering many products without having mastered all the recipes. He wanted his bakery to be a go-to place for all things bread, cakes, and pastries. And even if he hadn't tested all the recipes yet, he was excited to launch already. At first, people were excited about Patrick's bakery, the all-new bakery in town. In the first week of operations, everyone wanted to try the bakery's wide array of products. The menu was impressive, with almost every bread, cake, or pastry that you could think of. Indeed, the products were in demand. After a couple of weeks, however, demand slowly diminished and fewer customers came by. Patrick wondered why, since he tried to cater to everyone with the wide array of products that he was offering. Instead of trying to understand the reasons why less and less people were coming in, Patrick thought of ways to expand his operations. That's when he had an idea of bringing his products closer to the customers. To do so, he reached out to different cafes, restaurants, and groceries so he could consign his breads, pastries, and cakes with them. They then selected items from Patrick's offering and sealed the deal. Patrick was glad that his products were able to reach new people through the cafes, restaurants, and grocery stores. But with this expansion came challenges, as his team was not able to produce enough products for the new partners. This put a lot of pressure on Patrick, and his business was really struggling. In a couple of weeks, it seemed like he was on top of things, but actually his partners started to order less and less products from him. And a few weeks later came the real blow, when Patrick got an email from one of the major distributors that they would stop their cooperation with his bakery. One by one, other distributors followed until there was no one left. He was also running out of money. The worst was about to happen. If he didn't figure out how to turn things around, his dream would be gone. Patrick went for a walk to get some fresh air. Later that evening, he was working on his computer when he suddenly decided to check out his business review online. He was in shock. One after another, there were 1- and 2-star reviews that dominated the list. Patrick couldn't believe it. That is when he realized what was actually going on. He thought about what he was focusing on in the last 2 months, and it was all about a rush for expansion. More types of products, more cooperation deals, and more of everything else. When his team members tried to talk with Patrick, he didn't listen. And now he was broke. Patrick had 2 options. He could either give up his dream and go back to work as an accountant, or he would have to fundamentally change the way he runs and operates his business. Patrick wanted to talk to someone, so he called his mom. After explaining what was going on in his life, his mom said that Patrick should take things step by step. Patrick said that taking things easy will leave him behind the competition. But his mom went on to explain that before Patrick was born, the popular coffee shop only used to have 2 types of cakes. Then, with time, they slowly introduced more and more products. This was new to Patrick, as he remembered the coffee shop having a lot of options to choose from. Mom encouraged him to keep going, but to focus on little improvements over time instead of chasing quick success. He thanked his mom and told her that he loved her. After the call, he became determined to turn things around. The next day, he had a meeting with his team to discuss the new action plan. They agreed that they should focus on less products and make them unique. They completely changed their menu and went from having every product that you could imagine to having only a few selected products. Patrick ordered new ingredients to experiment with and improve the taste of their products. Soon enough, they started to have regular clients. Patrick was checking the online reviews regularly to make sure where his business was heading, and the bakery started to earn good reviews consistently. He had a consistent discussion with his team as well to get their opinion, and they often had great suggestions. Patrick also spoke with clients to get their feedback, and this earned him back his reputation. It wasn't easy, and it was an uphill battle because in the first attempts to succeed fast, he had damaged his bakery's name. But with time, he knew that he could change it. In the evenings, he researched new recipes and looked for new potential suppliers who could provide his business with fresh ingredients. Sometimes he experimented with new recipes in his kitchen, but that rarely worked. Despite that, he kept working hard. Once they had established their baseline with products, it was time to expand. By this time, he wanted to do it little by little and in a controlled way. They introduced 1 new product at a time and put it on sale. They collected feedback from their customers, and only when customers loved the new product, they added it to their menu. It was a slow but rewarding process, and despite the fact that they were expanding slowly, the sales were constantly growing, and people were flooding them with 5-star reviews. Soon after, Patrick received a phone call. It was the owner of a local coffee shop who wanted to work with Patrick's bakery. That was a real acknowledgement that things were going in the right direction. Patrick spoke with his team and thanked them for playing an important role in the business growth. One evening, Patrick was reading a book, and one section was called 1% Improvement Strategy. There was a graph that represented what a big difference 1% improvement can make if you keep working at it. Patrick smiled and thought to himself, I should have read this book before I launched my business. But he didn't regret any of it. He was actually grateful that he experienced the failure, as that made him stronger and smarter.